Hey everybody, welcome back to Battle Ready Inc. So here lately we've had a whole lot of tournaments for BT4, and we've really started to see what decks have really started to take off, which decks are just being played incredibly heavily in the format, as well as some really sneaky rogue decks that have been doing phenomenal. So what is countering these decks, right? Well, that's what we're here to talk about. Also, don't forget, just a few days left on these memory markers. This is going to be your Omnimon memory marker, guys. Great for your mats, for sure. Super adorable, made out of clay, handmade by my wife. All of them are completely unique. Check out the Patreon for these. This is only for June, so literally just by the time this video goes up, just a few days left to get in on this. Okay, so the BT4 meta is prominently being taken over by yellow. If you look at the tournaments, most of the results come back top 8, at least half of them are yellow wargreymon, some type of variant of yellow with wargreymon, Valder arms, all that stuff is just all very heavily. Okay, so most of what we're going to talk about today is countering that. Typically, whenever I think about what deck to play for a tournament, I think of, well, what's the most commonly played deck, right? So what am I going to expect to run into the most of? And I kind of tend to tech towards countering that. If I can't even beat that deck, then I'm going to have a really rough time trying to make it anywhere in that tournament. So that's what we're going to focus on primarily. However, it is also important to know what the other main decks are that you plan on seeing, okay? So let's just get the easier one out of the way first, though. Green. Green OTK is probably the second most popularly played deck that we have currently in the format. Now, that's not to say it's the most powerful, so make sure you check out, I kind of ranked a lot of the decks right now in the format. Check out that video if you're wondering where decks are sitting currently. But we're just talking about just mass being played. Green is probably the second most played right now. Different types of green, but green nonetheless. But green OTK, right? What really stops that deck? And it's honestly fairly easy. One, memory choking them is pretty good. If they have a memory tamer out there, memory fixing tamer, it gets a little more difficult. Of course, you can't really memory choke them. You got to find other ways to counter them, and they should be playing enough memory fixers in their deck to overcome being choked on memory. As well as other strategies is blockers. I mean, it's kind of really easy as long as you can at least block the Grand Kawagamon, and that's kind of the main one that you really want to block because he's swinging for 3 security checks. So just making sure you always have a blocker on field is really solid. If they have to waste a Digiburst on something like a Lilamon here, Digiburst to suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, that's actually not that big a deal. That's actually kind of helpful. So they're going to suspend your Digimon, right, to swing past it. That's essentially 2 security checks because you're going to block because of that, because of the Lilamon. Why I say that is they have to use 2 of their 4 Digivolution sources that are going to be underneath the Grand Kawagamon to get that ability off. So now Grand Kawagamon can only Digiburst once, so it only gets that 1 extra Digiburst. That's only 2 security checks it's going to be doing, which is really good. So even if they go into their Chaosmon and swing again, in total that's only 4 security checks, and that's pretty fundamental for that deck not to be able to clear all of them, because if it can ever come back on its turn and never not be able to finish the job, you're just going to keep putting them in that same predicament every single turn. So that's just kind of like a really solid strategy. It's just having a blocker out there. Just leave, if you know you're playing green OTK, just leave a blocker out there, right? Don't Digivolve on top of it or anything like that. Just leave it off, setting off to the side until you need it, and then just play other things, build up a new stack, that sort of thing. Whatever deck you're playing. If you're playing one of the newer colors that has the 1-cost evolution blockers, you know, maximize on your blocker count a little bit. What I've been doing is 4 of the 1-cost blocker Digivolve blockers, and then 3 of the 2-cost evolution blockers, and then whatever my My third level 4 is, I usually maximize on that, whether it's a 1-cost evolution. Now let's talk about yellow. Yellow is going to be your main force that's you're probably going to give you the most difficulty with, just because of the sheer speed and control that it has, while being effectively just being able to summon a whole bunch of bodies, clear a whole bunch of security very, very quickly, and while also maintaining control of your board by not letting you digivolve into things. So, first of all, things that really, really stop yellow. Again, memory choking is pretty good. That's going to be kind of like a recurring theme. If you can always memory choke your opponent, just keeping them at 1 or 2 memory when you pass turn, that's really good. Yellow, it's a little more tricky. If they're playing Blinding Ray, like me personally, I max out on the Blinding Ray. I go full 4 of, just because my opponent puts me at 1. I Blinding Ray, go to 3, go into wargreymon, and use wargreymon's ability to unsuspend itself. That puts me at 3 security, which is right where yellow wants to be to get all of its great, abilities, inheritables from Angelmon, Pulsemons on plays, Lucymon. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Being able to get those combos off is really important for yellow. So memory choking them, while yes is a solid strategy, is still not necessarily an end-all be-all by any means for that deck, because they can just get into the 3 memory that they need anyways. Other things though, because of the fact that they like to put themselves at 3 memory and like to just keep themselves perfectly at 3 memory, really fast decks are their bane. We saw it in the I believe it was the PPG, where Dan had Imperialmon, just regular old classic Imperialmon. I think he just threw in a couple Lobomons, the new Lobomons, and that was really only changes he made to the deck. It was still just a regular old 1.5 Imperialmon deck, because that deck is so fast, it gets so many swings very easily, that he was just able to overcome most of his matchups, just because they make it easy on you. I mean, it's like easy mode. It's, my 5 security versus your 3 security. Who's going to win? You're handicapping yourself against a deck like that, because they can get so many swings so rapidly. And especially if they build up into a Pyldramon, then promote the Pyldramon onto the field, swing, bring out Imperialmon, swing with Imperialmon twice. That's your 3 security already gone. And say they hard played a rookie at any time in a previous turn, that's your 4th swing. Boom, game over. And this is kind of lead into our next point. Yellow, for one, isn't really playing any options or anything that you have to worry about in security. The biggest thing that you have to worry about swinging into yellow security is mostly just a Valder arm, and usually that's played at such a low count anyway that the chances of hitting into it aren't that big a deal. Nothing else that you're swinging into in a wargreymon focused deck, which is what you're mostly playing against. Yes, there are other decks out there, yellow varieties, like security control, that sort of thing, but that's not what's in mass. Okay, what's in mass is wargreymon yellow, and so you just don't have anything to worry about in security. No option cards, nothing like that. So it's just an easy cake ride swinging into their security, especially if you have jamming. Then you really have nothing to worry about ever, and you can just clear their security very, very quickly. Which kind of leads me into the next segment here. A good counter for yellow as well as green right now, because green is also in the same situation where it's playing a lot of stuff that it's now steered away from a lot of its old techs that used to be so important to it. Like Flower Cannon isn't that big a deal. It's a little more impactful for Imperialmon, but not so much your OTK decks, right? So your OTK decks, they swing, they do a whole bunch of security checks, right? But then they're already suspended, so Flower Cannon, even Positron lasers, isn't going to affect them. So there's not really much you have to worry about in green, besides maybe a Nidhoggmon and a Chaosmon. That's really it. That's the only big things that they're going to have just sitting there. So what kind of decks are we talking about here? Ragna Lordmon was another deck that did really well. It got 2nd place in one of the Bandai tournaments. Again, it's just you're able to get 3-4 security checks off, and boom, you just cleared your opponent's whole security, and now you just swing for game with literally anything else on field. Very just solid, and with piercing because of the red one that goes underneath, then there you go, even better. And with it having blocker, Grand Kawagamon shut down, right? Even if they want to go into Chaosmon, it matches Chaosmon, so Chaosmon can't get over it. It's just solid. Ragna is great for countering the current meta. You're able to just swing through all their security. Nothing in security is going to terrify you. Even hitting into a Chaosmon, because if you're playing, you know, the red version, then you've probably got at least one DP boost somewhere in that stack to just pump you up just a little bit. Just a little bit is all you need. Just one 1K buff, and you're swinging over everything in the meta. And yeah, so we saw it do extremely well. Other decks that are kind of fringe decks but are right now in a good position. So green OTK, it's not fringe, but green OTK counters the yellow matchup pretty well for the same reasons. You get a whole bunch of swings in there. While yes, if the yellow player is teching against green or thinking about playing against green, then they know to leave a blocker out there. But besides that, yellow doesn't have a whole lot else that they've got. Assuming the green player is playing smart and they're not promoting up their key stack, right? So if your stack has Palmon in it in your raising area, you're probably going to want to get all the way up into a 5 or even a 6 before you promote it to do your combo, right? Because you don't want to risk yellow removing it. So just being cautious as a green player, being reserved until you're ready to just punch for everything all at once. Another one is the Black Wargreymon, surprisingly doing very well. What's really nice about its ability is it digibursts to unsuspend itself, and you can get stuff like jamming on it because of the Greymon, and the metal Greymon inheritables are really good with the Black Wargreymon. And again, something like Flower Cannon doesn't even stop it, because you're going to swing into security, do your security check, it's already suspended, and then Flower Cannon goes off, and then you can just Digiburst again to unsuspend and keep going. So similar to Imperial Dramon, where Imperial Dramon keeps unsuspending itself, Flower Cannon can at least stop it, well, I guess, it only needs to hit it once. So Imperial Dramon is susceptible to Flower Cannon. Both are susceptible to Positron, but Positron isn't really being played in green outside of Rookie Rush, so you don't even really have to worry about Positron, I wouldn't say. So Black Wargreymon, kind of fringe, but at the same time has a really good matchup against these decks. Again, yellow has a low security count with nothing really terrifying in it. So a couple of swings and you've already cleared all of their security. Green, while green, they're going to have their full security, it's also pretty unlikely to hit anything in there that's too detrimental or too terrifying. Also, another kind of just mention is the new red stuff. So Omnimon here, kind of good, because you're being able to swing for multiple security checks, right? So you got security attack +1. You combine that with the Greymon, right, from way back when from the starter decks. That's security attack +2 with its innate just regular hit. That's 3 security checks that you're hitting with a level 5 at 11k into yellow. That's gonna more than likely clear all their security. As long as you're timing it right, you can just clear everything. So go into your Omnimon, leave it in the raising area. They'll pass it back to you. Swing for all their security, and then use one of the new Agunimons here to go over your Tamer. Very, very solid to just win you games here. Just wanted to kind of mention it. It is just kind of an interesting option. Red still being able to kind of keep up with the OTK decks. Its stuff is a little more expensive, but again, it's red. They can do a whole mess of security plus. So they got new Voltdramon with the old Greymon. That's security attack +2. You go into a Wargreymon on top of Voltdramon, and if you have a tie, in on the field, then you're clearing 5 security with 0 options getting triggered. Yeah, that's pretty good. If you have your babies underneath and your rookie Agumon for that +2k buff there, yeah, Red Wargreymon OTK is actually a thing that could happen, just because it has nothing really formidable to worry about in the meta right now, and it could very easily compete. Same with just all the other OTK decks. It just sits right there with them. And then the last one I want to touch on is the big one here, and that's what we saw top one of the Bandai events was security control. Yes, red, yellow security is still a thing. There's also other variants out there. There's like yellow, purple security control, like with Mastimon. Just lots of different types of security control decks, but really just the good classic yellow-red is still just very solid. What really makes it good is the fact that usually everything in its security is pretty deadly, right? It either has a whole lot of attack, so anything that runs into it, like a yellow wargreymon, can just die just on the first swing very easily, right? Anything that yellow attacks into with is just dies every time it swings in, as well as it plays a lot of options that kill whatever swings into it. So then we're looking at, it's a good counter to green for the same reason. Whereas green might have jamming, sure, but security control plays a whole lot of stuff that will just kill whatever swings into it. Whether that be DP reduction or straight Gaia Force. There's all kinds of things in that security that'll just demolish green OTK, just demolishes yellow, anything the yellow throws at it. And when yellow doesn't mind so much crashing a lot of its stuff, like Agumon with Rush, that sort of thing, they'll crash it and it'll die, and then their whole field is cleared because they swung with everything. All the while, yellow just keeps using its recovery abilities and just keeps recovering while chipping away at you. And every time yellow tries to build into anything, it just gets wiped out again. And the security control player just keeps recovering. That recovery also really counters green OTK. Once green OTK kind of does their one-trick pony to clear all your security, that's it. Until they can build into a whole brand new stack with everything, the Palmon, the Grand Kawagamon, the Chaosmon, they need all these fundamental pieces to get that combo off. That takes time to build up into that. And if it doesn't even get you a full clear, or they just recovery a whole bunch because of Holy Wave or whatever, yeah, that's pretty bad. So great counter, just security control to the two most popular decks of the entire format, as well as it just kind of counters a lot of stuff in general, really. I mean, anytime you run the risk of hitting into a Gaia Force in security, it's always terrifying. And you think, okay, well, what are the chances they're going to have a Gaia Force in their security out of 5 security? But you got to think about this. You're not just hitting 5 security, right, like normal. You're playing security control. They have so much recovery that you're just hitting into stuff, and they just, fill it back up. They're back up to 5 again, or 4, whatever it is. They play their Magnadramons, their Holy Waves, their Magnadramon and Magna Angemon, right? So just tons and tons of recovery. So they have a high opportunity to put the Gaia Forces that are still in the deck over into their security, and therefore, there you go. You increase the chances of having Gaia Force or just other removal in general in your security. So it's dangerous. It's for sure dangerous. It counters everything. It frustrates me, but it's probably still the best deck. It was there at the end of 1.5. It was pretty much the best deck, and then everyone was so excited to play all the new stuff that they kind of just fell off of playing it. And now it looks like it's still the best deck. It's still countering all the new stuff even. So it's going to take some time. That's why I was saying the wargreymon is actually a pretty solid counter to it, because they don't trigger any other options when you swing in. So we could be seeing if there's a rise in security control, we could be seeing a rise in red wargreymon OTK. And it's going to keep changing, right? One deck is going to be good one week, and then another deck will counter that deck and push it down, right? And that'll be the hot deck to play. And then someone's going to play a deck that's going to counter that deck, right? So they're going to be countering the red wargreymon with something else, and it's just going to keep going and going and going. And I talked about it in my my deck review where we ranked all the decks right now. Is we have best decks currently, but they're going to be constantly in rotation. I just called it like a vicious cycle, and we're going to keep going round and round and round on whatever is the best deck, because it's actually a pretty good format. I mean, when you really think about it, it's always about like kind of outthinking. Okay, so security control was good last week. That means people are going to be playing red wargreymon this week to counter that. So then I should play X deck to counter that, right? Oh, but what if everyone else is also thinking that? So then I should outthink that. And then you're just like over-metaing yourself. So be careful on doing things like that, because that might be a little overkill. But it's kind of fun that you have to really think and plan things out. It's like, okay, well, what should I play then? I don't think there is a right answer. I don't think there is a right answer of what is the exact deck you should play, because it's always going to change, and it's always going to change depending on your area. So whatever people play in your area a lot, you know, you have to tailor what you're playing accordingly. So just keep that in mind when trying to figure out how to beat the meta, is that people are also going to be playing decks that are going to beat the meta. So I hope that was useful to you in some way, somehow, just talking through all that. That's how you're going to beat the decks. Now you got to figure out which one to play at the right times to beat those, and that's a you call. I cannot like tell you exactly which decks to play, just because it's always going to be changing. So it's on you from this point. So take my information, and happy gaming. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and comment, as well as subscribe if you haven't already. If you enjoy this type of content, I try to put it out as much as possible, so definitely subscribe. Also, if you really enjoyed the content, check out my Patreon. I have a link in the description below for it. You can get access to my Discord server, as well as if you're a Dragon Village Inn fan, account takeovers where I help you out with your account. If you're a Digimon fan, I've got monthly giveaway, well, not even giveaways, I've got monthly merch that's specific to Patreon, stuff like memory counters, custom made. This is the baby form of Vmon here. There's going to be more in the works also, so lots of memory counters, all kinds of awesome Digimon merch. So definitely check out that tier, and if you're just all out crazy, there's other tiers if you're that dedicated. As well as check out my Teespring. I've got awesome merch there, you know, official Battle Ready Ink merch. Awesome phone cases for you Digimon fans out there. They've got them for iPhones as well as Samsungs. So they are super sweet. If you've seen the last Digimon movie, that's where these are from. I had a friend of mine custom make these so that way they fit perfectly on these phone cases. They look super good. So definitely check those out. But at the end of the day, if you can't do any of that, just like I said, like the video. That helps a ton. And subscribe. It doesn't hurt, but it helps me. So that's what's the real benefit. And as always, I'll see you next time.